Hey, this week in 1980s news, as reported by the Aspiring Kryptonian. All right, this website's already got my attention just because of its name. Aspiring Kryptonian.
Yeah.
And the news story is that Superman, written super/man, Superman, the Christopher Reeve story will premiere at Sundance in January. According to the official documentation, that the documentary is moving backward and forward in time. The filmmakers weave together a dual narrative exploring the life-changing impact of two pivotal moments in Christopher Reeve's career, being cast in 1978's Superman and becoming paralyzed in 1995. Decades before superheroes took over the cinemas, Reeve made the world believe a man could fly. If you remember, that was the tagline for the film, right? You will believe.
Yeah.
And his accident brought worldwide awareness of disability. Boy. Yeah. According to this, the film features, quote, never before seen home movies and extraordinary personal archives, end quote. The result is what we're led to believe will be a deeply moving film about the man behind the superhero.
On board. I love him.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I think about how moving the Michael J. Fox piece was.
Oh, yes.
And I'm like, if it's anything like that, bring my hanky.
Yes.
You guys are probably tired of me telling these stories about Christopher Reeve.
Oh.
I will say it one more time, just for the audience here.
I think
this is particular. Look, just even thinking about his story here is very, I don't want to say upsetting, but it's definitely emotional for me because for so many reasons. But I think, and I've shared these stories in different ways before, but Superman, the film for me in 1978 was so important and meaningful to me because it made me believe that I could be a superhero, maybe.
Yeah.
That aspect of you would believe a man could fly. I also believe that, people could, and even watching 66 Batman, this idea that, that people could step into these roles. And I shared with you guys before, as a result, I modified my sister's dance leotard from where she was like a parakeet, created my own superhero and wore those tights, under my clothes from that forward.
Yep.
That's when we learned John did something similar too.
Yes.
Yep. That's right. So you're not alone.
But it was only a couple years later where I saw Christopher Reeve then in, I want to say Death Trap, which was like 80 or 81. And even as a young kid, I was, I don't know, maybe 10 years old at the time. It was like, so I was moving out of that age of believing in superheroes and sort of worshiping him that way. And now becoming more interested in cinema and found out, wait a second, this guy was Superman and now he's this other actor. Like, what? This is amazing to me,
Right.
And so in part, that was, what led me on my path. And then I had a similar experience with Harrison Ford. I was a dumb kid, apparently, that didn't realize that actors in movies were fake. Or characters.
You have to learn that at some point. So it's fine. And actually, I think you're lucky to have been able to not had your disbelief tarnished for so long. You're able to enjoy it. Maybe, arguably longer than some kids do. Maybe some people, learn at different times the concept of what an actor is in a production versus just there's a guy on screen that must be real. It's like it's like Santa Claus, right? It's like the longer you can suspend any sort of disbelief and understand what it is to enjoy that thing without the baggage of, oh, well, someone said action and someone did an edit. All that is unnecessary. And now I can't not watch a movie without thinking about that crap. But before you knew about it, you could just enjoy it for what it was. So lucky you.
Yeah. And I felt lucky in the sense that my interests changed in the way they did, because then I just became, really interested in behind the scenes and how these things were made. That brought me joy in that regard. But I credit these experiences with wanting to pursue acting later in my life. And it was at that point, is this getting boring? You guys just tell me to stop, right? I'll stop.
I'm still awake. It's
Brandon says he lives.
Brandon,
we knew this, right? We knew this about Brandon, I think. He lives in Metropolis, Illinois. The official.
It's hitting home for him. Absolutely.
Yeah. Big statue of him they have in the town. That's so cool.
Karen says she loves the noises off. I love that too. Yeah. Such a great cast.
Right.
Christopher Reeve, John Ritter, Michael Caine, Carol Burnett, Mary Lou Henner, so on and so forth.
I don't know that one.
Noises gosh.
Off.
It's actually a play. It was originally a play, and then it was adapted to a film.
Yep.
I love John Ritter, so that's...
yeah.
Well, John, the premise is in the theater, when they had it in Broadway, they'd show you the play, and the play was going wrong. It was going horribly wrong at times, and you're not sure why. And then during the half the intermission, the stage would rotate, and you'd see the backstage area of the actors. And now they do the play again, but now you see what was happening backstage that caused all the errors on stage.
That's fascinating. Okay,
I think in the film they do it at the same time, so you see backstage and front, on stage at the same time. So it's anyway. So years after that, in the early 1990s, when I was becoming an actor, one of my first gigs was acting at the New Jersey Shakespeare Festival. At least it was known then. And again, just stop me, Kat, if I go up too much. This is all this thing for me, right? Oh look, Miss So says it's boring. Stop.
Yes, Miss So.
And just for some color, and look, I told the story again. It was 92 or 93. I guess it was 93.
Okay. Yeah.
And at that same time, I had just gotten interested in reading comic books again because they did this thing with my favorite comic book hero, Superman, in the comics to try to reinvigorate folks' interest, where they killed off his character, and as far as we knew, he was he was done.
Right.
So I started reading that series again. I started reading that series rather when it came. I read comics, when I was a kid, and then I got back into it again. I was a young adult. And I am cast in a play and sitting there waiting, as you do. A lot of it's waiting for your turn to go and rehearse a certain scene, and you're waiting in the lobby of the theater or whatever. And I'm sitting next to another actor who is there, a woman, who introduces herself as Dana. I'm in the play too. You start, oh, great to meet you. Do you like comic books? I felt like an idiot because, she was easily 5 or 6 years older than I was. And so she seemed like a very sophisticated woman. And here I was still holding on to things I did as a child. And I said, what? No, I don't like, I love Superman. Oh, you love Superman? Yeah. Okay. So we kept rehearsing and everything. Anyway, that was Dana Reeve, Christopher Reeve's wife.
Yes.
Oh,
she never let on at the time that she was Christopher Reeve's wife. Now, Dana and I would do a few plays together. And at some point, one of those plays, not that one, Chris Reeve came to see it. He would often come to see it. But and during the last,
interested.
So he would be hanging around, and what'd you say?
I said he wasn't that interested.
No, that's it. That's the end of the story. He was the only guy booing. It was quite strange.
Boo! Get a cape. Boo!
Yeah. I get a cape.
Well, what's interesting? So again, this sounds like just like a lot of name dropping, but this is really true. At the time I was in this theater, I was in this theater company with Peter Dinklage, who at the time was just Peter Dinklage, and now, as you know, this world-renowned actor Peter Dinklage. And Peter and I were reading the Superman comic together. We would go to the comic book store together. We would read it. All right.
Yep.
And Peter had worked with. He had been in a theater, working in a theater company where Christopher Reeve had performed. And the word backstage, everybody that was spreading around was, "Don't bring up Superman to him. He doesn't like to talk about Superman."
Oh my gosh!
Okay. Really? Yeah. So now at this point, I'm reading this comic. I know it's Dana. I know it's Chris. All right. If I ever run into, do not bring up. But that's all that's on my mind.
That's all you can think of.
It's like, don't think of an elephant.
Right.
Anyway, at one point, one of the plays that I was in with Dana, I had to do a lot of physical comedy. And when I saw Chris Reeve after that, I think during the cast party, I wanted to tell him, how big a fan I was, obviously. And because I hadn't gotten to talk to him. I'd seen him around, but I hadn't gotten to talk to him. So I got to do that. And he said, "Hey, you did a great job in the show. Like, I couldn't do what you did." And this is what he said. And now it sounds terrible, but this is literally what he said, which, sort of haunted me for a while, a year after this or 2 years after this. He said, "If I were to do what you did, I would have broken my back." And then it was just a year, I think, or maybe 2 years. I did another show with her, I think, in 94, and he had his accident in 95.
Yeah. Wow.
Now, the super sad coda to this is that Dana passed away about 10 years after that. And she was only 44 years old.
Oh my gosh.
Jeez.
Wow.
She died of lung cancer. She never smoked a day in her life. But what she did do was she was an amazing singer and would sing cabaret at various clubs and bars that did allow smoking.
Right.
So they think that's how she got lung cancer, was just working at these places.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Yeah, there you go.
Man.
Oh, wait. I got it. Let me see here.
There's a bunch of comments.
There you go.
There we go. Lifelong debilitating injuries and lung cancer.
Yes.
Uplifting Christmas episode.
Now, can I tell you one last coda to the coda? That just again,
by all means, don't stop now.
So I told you I read this Death and Return of Superman because he actually does come back, and that was in '93.
Don't they always?
30 years later, they brought back the writers of those comics, including Dan Jurgens and Brett Breeding, the writers and artists of the original comic series. And I raised my oldest on reading comics to them at night, including this series.
Wow.
And now my child's first assistant editing credit was editing the DC comic.
Yes, that's right.
This anniversary comic that just came back.
So cool.
Full circle.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's some kind of, I don't know.